Today we're going to talk about activity logs, like logs that you can use to track what's happening on your website, both on the web application level, as in the web server, how it's running and who's accessing things, but also on WordPress itself, like as in how can you keep a log of what's happening inside WordPress, because it's very important to make a bit of a distinction. What you can see in your web server log files is you're seeing who is accessing WordPress, from which IP, which HTTP requests they are sending and stuff. So you can see, like, of course, if user is logging in, but you cannot see actually specific things, like if someone changed the content or something like that, because that's very different. So yeah, we're going to see the differences there, and yeah, and we'll see actually what you can do with them. First of all, by the way, there are a few different logs, right, Joe? There's the web server access logs. What else?
Yeah, exactly. There's web server access log. There are, if you have a firewall or CDN, they do have their own logging system. The
system logs, I think,
system
because
log,
usually,
yeah.
For example, auth.log, like the operating system, you can see who it. Again, we're talking system log if you have a dedicated server, because in the managed hosting, you won't see that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And on top of that, we have the WordPress activity log. You mentioned, by the way, the firewall and CDN logs. Is a very important point. So if you have a firewall, which is not a plugin, which is like a firewall, which sits like a CDN, basically, which sits between the website visitor and your website, you might find a lot of information there, because basically those logs are logs of requests before actually reaching your website. So you might find, some interesting information there. And then, of course, we have the WordPress activity logs. WordPress by default doesn't keep a log of what's happening on your website. Now we have a plugin, it's called WP Activity Log, which you can install it, and basically it keeps a log of user actions and changes, like user, when did they log in, what changes are doing, if someone installed a plugin, updated a plugin, changed some WordPress settings, changed a page, changed the content, created a user, all these stuff. All this type of information, like what is happening inside of WordPress itself, you won't find it in the web server access logs, but you can only find it with by installing a plugin like WP Activity Log.
Yeah.